Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. So today we're going to start the first process of really understanding the mind, how it works, and undoing a lot of mental habits that we have. When I say mental habits, we tend to look at the world through eyes that are fairly untrained and with a perception that is so limited, and yet we believe it. Think about how many times you have been wrong in something that you perceived or thought, and then were corrected only to realize, man, how could I have thought that? How many of you have thought or looked at something and it looked like something else, and when you went closer to discover that it wasn't anything like you thought it would be? I'm reminded that I was reading a book, and this little boy describes in the shed in the dark what he thinks is a vampire bat, and he takes a swipe at it, and lo and behold, it was a hornet's nest. And it totally changed, and they started stinging him. So we have these perceptions all the time, and yet we think so much of our own opinion that they are true and that everyone else is wrong or false around us. And oftentimes, and I'm being generous saying oftentimes because it's usually all the time, but oftentimes we're completely in the wrong. And even when you've been vehemently vindicated, let's say, later on when you looked at the situation differently, a year later, 2 years later, I've done that and I've realized, you know what? I wasn't actually completely accurate with what I was thinking back then. In fact, I think I was completely wrong. So as our mind grows and develops and sees the world differently, it starts to expand its own perception. Perception is that. It's usually a very limited portion of what we're looking at. And to see something totally means that we have to see it from all sides, all angles. And that is difficult for the brain, because the brain doesn't work that way. The brain is constantly categorizing, judging things that we've talked about in the past. So the lessons, this is going to be lesson number 1. We're going to have some exercises to do. If you can do them morning and night, great. Some exercises, we may do more advanced stuff, but it's not necessary in the beginning actually to even believe what we're doing or even to try to understand. It is just merely going through the motions. I know that seems weird and fanciful, but it can be quite startling as you start the process of really reorientating your mind to a much greater level of perception. Because if we take true perception as complete or total perception, the very nature of it really has no limits. And so we tend to see mostly the opposite of that. A very limited scope. It's only what I'm dealing with right now. What it looks like that I'm dealing with is really awful. And yet if we just wait 6 months or a year, it oftentimes isn't. And so we're going to start that process. And so today, we're going to look at everything around us. So if you're sitting there comfortably and you're looking around you, you can pick anything you have in front of you, and you're literally going to say, nothing I see means anything to me. And we're going to get to why in later lessons. But right now, as I look around, this wall means nothing to me. This chair means nothing to me, because nothing I see means anything to me. We give everything we see all the meaning we have. And so we're going to do a second part of this lesson as I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I'm going to say that again. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. So as we look around and start establishing things, let's say you're looking at your car keys. You give your car keys all the meaning they have for you. I've given my shirt all the meaning it has for me. I've given the ring on my finger all the meaning it has for me. And I want you to go even further than that and stretch out to, hey, the traffic outside on the road, I give all the meaning it has for me. So we're going to start out again with nothing I see means anything. And I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. So we're going to start there today, and you can work on this over the next couple of days. That's fine. Doing it morning and night. Next week, we're going to go over lesson 2. And so if you're hearing this for the first time, you're going to have to wait. If you're now hearing this and you see that there are more than 100 lessons, then this is your first one to do for a day or two, and then you can move on to lesson 2. Please don't do more than one lesson in any given day. That's not the goal, to get through it as quickly as possible. The goal is to have the mind and give it time to change and to start a greater understanding, so that we can move from where we are in our life to something greater, and allowing healing to enter, allowing relationships to heal, allowing other relationships to enter, to really have a much more full and amazing life, because that's what it really is all about. And being really true to ourselves and the greatness of what we are. So until next time, I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness.
This concludes another episode of Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson. If you have any questions concerning this podcast or others, you can reach Dr. Munson by email at chiroman, that's CHIRO man, at dr.com. Or you can call him at his office during office operation hours at 360-893-8586. This show is sponsored by Infinity Whole Health on the Disruptors Podcast Network.
The information on this podcast from Dr. Troy Munson is meant to educate the listener on a variety of health issues. It is not meant to diagnose or treat any conditions.